Let's talk about a really stark contradiction. Imagine living in a country that has some of the world's most progressive laws designed to protect you, but on the street, you're a target. This is the paradox facing transgender people in Pakistan. We're going to dive into this dangerous gap between what the law says and what life is actually like, especially in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province.
And this right here cuts straight to the heart of it. The laws are there, the protection is on the books, but society? That's a whole different story. So how did this chasm between the law and the streets get so wide? And what does it mean for the people who are caught right in the middle of this clash?
You know, to really understand what this kind of violence feels like, we have to go beyond just the numbers. Let's zoom in on one single brutal attack. It really shows the terrifying reality the transgender community is up against every single day.
Okay, so picture this. It's just after midnight, September 11th, 2022. A car is driving down Ring Road in Peshawar. Inside are 4 transgender individuals and their driver. Suddenly, they're ambushed. Within minutes, their car is just sprayed with bullets. When the police show up, they find all 5 people inside seriously hurt. And for one of them, a woman named Naina, the fight for her life was just beginning in the ICU.
40. This number, it tells you everything about the sheer ferocity of this attack. This is how many bullet casings the police found at the scene. 40. This wasn't just about intimidation or sending a message. This was an attempt to annihilate.
That attack is just one horrifying snapshot. But now, let's pull the lens back. Because that one incident is part of a much bigger, much more shocking story. A story about a country with these amazing progressive laws, on paper, and these absolutely terrifying statistics on the ground.
See, back in 2018, Pakistan passed this, the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act, and on paper, it was a huge deal, a monumental achievement, really. It gave trans people the right to be legally recognized as the gender they identify with, and it made it illegal to discriminate against them. People celebrated it as a massive step forward.
And here's where that contrast just hits you like a ton of bricks. The law promises dignity and protection, but the reality? Just in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province since 2015 is more than 91 people murdered, and over 2,000 reported cases of violence. The law is a promise, but for so many, the reality is a constant threat.
And if you want to see just how badly the system is failing, just look at this chart. In the 5 years after that landmark law was passed, there were 267 cases of brutality against trans people reported in this one province. And the number of convictions? 1. A single conviction out of 267 cases. That's not a gap in justice, that's a black hole.
So the big question is, why? Why does the system fail so profoundly? Well, the reasons are pretty deeply tangled up in both the attitudes of the institutions and the pressures from society. Let's dig into some of these conflicting viewpoints that show what's really going wrong.
Okay, get this. This is the perspective the Peshawar police offered during their investigation of that September 11th attack. Instead of focusing on, the people who fired 40 bullets into a car, the official story shifts to blaming the victims, calling them a mafia, suggesting the violence is their own fault. I mean, when the people who are supposed to protect you think like this, where do you even go for help?
But the activists on the ground, they see something completely different. Farzana Riaz, a leader in the community, she points to a justice system that's like a revolving door. Even when the police do arrest someone, the culprits often get out of custody with shocking ease. This doesn't just deny justice for one person, it sends a message to every other attacker out there that they can get away with it.
And the breakdown doesn't just stop with the police. The victims, who are already in an incredibly vulnerable position, they get intimidated by their attackers. They're threatened, or sometimes they're offered money to just drop the case. This leads to these out-of-court settlements, which means the system, the courts, they never even get a chance to work, and the attackers just walk free.
But here's the thing, this is not just a story about violence and failure. It's also a story of incredible resilience. Let's look at how the community and its allies are actually fighting back, creating their own ways to stay safe, and demanding that things change.
This is a perfect example of that resilience. An organization called Blue Veins created this app, the Trans Muhafiz app. Muhafiz means protector, and what it does is, with a single press of a button, a person who's in danger can send out an alert to trusted friends, to the police, and to human rights groups, all at once. It's a modern safety net built by the community for the community.
And it's not just grassroots tech. You've also got these really established, powerful organizations, like the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan.
They're the ones doing the hard work of investigating attacks, documenting all the abuse, and then using that evidence to pressure the authorities to actually do their jobs and hold the system accountable.
And if we zoom out even more, you can see the big picture strategy. International partners like the UNDP are working with local groups on this long-term framework for real systemic change. It's a whole 5-step roadmap: fixing the laws, educating the public, getting more political access, providing support, and just making sure everyone is talking to each other. It's all about turning those rights on paper into an actual lived reality.
So you have all of these efforts, from smartphone apps to big international frameworks. But the hard truth is, the future is still incredibly fragile. Progress isn't a straight line. It feels more like 1 step forward, 2 steps back, because it's constantly being threatened by these powerful reactionary forces.
I mean, this timeline says it all. In 2018, you have this historic victory. The law is passed, huge celebrations. 5 years later, in 2023, the federal Sharia court strikes down key parts of that very same law, basically gutting its protections. And then, just 2 years after that, a council of elders in one district orders every single transgender person to be kicked out of their homes, with the police sent to enforce it. It's a devastating cycle of progress and backlash.
And that brings us right back to where we started with this really fundamental question. And it's not just about Pakistan. It's about what human rights even mean. If a right is written down in a law book, but it's ignored and violated every day, through violence, through a broken system, through social hatred, what is that right really worth? Does it even exist at all? That is the paradox, and that is the challenge that remains.